Talk Radio 790 KABC, the John Phillips Show. Joined by Mr. Randy Wang in Culver City.
John, the Palisades fire is roaring, and there's a big warning out there. There are a lot of people, traffic is so bad that they're abandoning their cars to flee the scene. If you are abandoning your car, leave the keys in the car. Otherwise, emergency vehicles cannot get through.
Leave your keys in the car. What if you're driving a Kia?
Then you're fine.
Yeah, anyone can just commandeer that.
But this fire is massive. There are mandatory evacuations order. Be very careful if you're anywhere near there. It's time to get out. Mandatory evacuations are in place northeast of Merrimack Road, west of Topanga Canyon Boulevard, south of PCH. Get out.
I saw a tweet from the actor James Woods, who I guess lives in Pacific Palisades, and he took a picture of the fire as it's moving its way through the Palisades. And structures are burning down right now as we speak.
It is really destructive. It's a terrible. There's never a good area to have a fire, but this is one of the worst areas to have a fire. It is not looking good out there.
Did I ever tell you I ran into him at Musso and Frank's one night?
Oh, really?
I had the fried oysters.
Oh, my.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, we know that there are a bunch of bad policies across the board here in the state of California, but it's hard to find a policy that's more destructive than giving drug addicts drug paraphernalia and calling it harm reduction. But, Randy, that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah.
Harm reduction is getting even more money in Southern California. While San Francisco is starting to back away from the destructive policy that pretty much surrendered the Tenderloin in Soma to open-air drug markets, LA's doubling down. Not only has Barbara Ferrer funded projects that have passed out needles and pipes and other paraphernalia to destroy places like Santa Monica and already make places like Skid Row even worse, now Eunices Hernandez is teaming up with Hilda Solis to bring more harm reduction to the biggest open-air drug market in Los Angeles, Macarthur Park.
Because that's what that park needs, more drugs.
Eunices had a presser with Hilda, with Marina Elena Durazo, and every single service provider that actually gets funding on the fact that we want to keep drug addicts doing drugs. And it was pretty eye-opening.
Same with the meth.
For more, let's hear Eunices Hernandez at Macarthur Park.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
We can turn off the music now, guys.
Yeah, what's with the music?
Channel 35.
I want to start
Is
off
she on hold with Rez?
I want to start off by thanking some folks who are here with us, who have made time to be with us today. Supervisor Solis, thank you for being here with us today, but always being in support of, moving forward our communities and investing in them. Senator Maria Elena.
That's right. Hilda Solis has been in office forever and ever and ever, has seen that park go from a kind of fun place to an absolute hellhole. So she should get an applause.
And giving them more drugs is investing in our community.
By the way, the title of this press conference that caught my eye was Health and Safety in Macarthur Park.
Well, if when I was teaching adult ed, I taught the Success Program, which was court-ordered, why not call it that too?
Senator Maria Elena Durazo, thank you so much for joining us today. Really honored that you're here to share space with us and also throw down with us. And
do what?
Throw down.
She's classy. Marina Elena Durazo, you throwing down with Eunices?
Is that what they call handing out crack pipes?
Really honored that you're here to share space with us and also throw down with us and how you have been for many, many years for this neighborhood. Thank you. We have Jimmy Kim, General Manager of Recreation and Parks, always throwing down, making sure we have...
The Parks Department throws down with Eunices.
Why not?
She's a classy gal.
Always throwing down, making sure we have all the resources for our parks that they're...
Once again, this is the most destructive park in all of Los Angeles. This almost caused Langers to decide to close up shop and go out of business because of the violence, the gang activity, and the open-air drug markets. And we have our electeds holding a press conference talking about how great it is.
And patting themselves on the back for the condition of the park. If you're in charge of the parks, wouldn't the press conference be about new slides, new swing sets, maybe a new water fountain. Oh, no, it's crack pipes.
We found $400,000 that we're going to spend on a team of people to walk around the park with Narcan, so if anybody keels over, we can revive them. I'm not kidding. That's literally what this press conference is for.
And it's turning into an Academy Award speech.
Run good, that they have a good team. And a lot of the work that we do has been in collaboration with RAP. So thank you, Jimmy, for your leadership. Dr. Samir Amin, Chief Medical Officer with LA Care.
LA Care, which is a taxpayer-funded health insurance for the destitute in the city of Los Angeles, is now using some of their money to give more drugs to the homeless.
Wait, aren't they supposed to get them off drugs?
No. We have to meet people where they are.
I see.
Getting people off of drugs causes stigma. You shouldn't feel bad because you're addicted to meth. We need you to feel comfortable with us until you decide that you're ready to not do the meth anymore. And while you're doing that, we're going to give you clean pipes. We're going to give you foil. We're going to give you spoons, every single thing that you need. Wound care, if you're sticking needles in your arms, we're not going to stop you from doing the drug. That is the wrong thing.
Why don't they rename them to the Department of Enabling?
Dr. Samir Amin, Chief Medical Officer with LA Care. Thank you so much for joining us this morning and bring your expertise.
You can get a medical license to pass out more drugs.
Please tell me she's going to introduce the coroner, because that's the only one she needs with her.
And all the resources y'all are bringing. Shoshana Scholar from the Department of Health Services at LA County with the Office of the Director of Harm Reduction.
We have a Director of Harm Reduction for LA County Department of Health Services. Someone whose whole job and whole department is to pass out paraphernalia to drug addicts.
I'd love to know what they're paying that person.
Well, if Barbara Ferrer makes $600,000 as the Director of Public Health,
no, thank you.
I got to imagine the Director of Public Health's harm reduction, she's probably making 2 or 3 bills.
Next slide.
Maybe more than that.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. I was just so excited to see her because I've known Shoshana for a long time. Shoshana has been on the front lines of this work for decades.
And has the situation gotten better or worse since we 10 years ago decided harm reduction was the only thing that mattered in Los Angeles and California?
It's gotten much, much worse, but throw down. Why not?
We're going with this. These policies were set in L.A. about over a decade ago, San Francisco as well. And statewide, we moved to the housing first model thanks to Holly Mitchell when she was in the state Senate. Has the situation gotten worse or better since we decided we don't need to get you off drugs?
But again, it's like going back to the conversation we had about Mayor Pete. They believe it's fundamentally unfair to judge him based on the state of transportation in the country. They believe it's fundamentally unfair to judge them based on the numbers, whether or not more people are addicted to drugs or less people, whether or not more people are dying of drugs or less people. They think that that's not a relevant statistic.
And so I got too excited. But let me step back.
Nothing excites you, Nissies, like somebody who passes out meth pipes.
This really tells you everything you need to know about local government here.
This ideology makes no sense, and we're spending even more money on it. And just remember, all the money that they're spending on this is money they're not spending on treatment beds to get people off the drugs.
Yes, because Gavin Newsom, going all the way to the top of the pyramid here, doesn't believe in clean and sober.
Well,
none of them believe in clean and sober. They think that that's a fool's errand. So if you don't believe that someone can kick an addiction, someone can kick a bad habit, then what you do is you enable their bad behavior because there's nothing wrong with what they're doing, and we don't want to create a stigma.
Clean and sober is one of the biggest damn mistakes this country's ever made. I know it's a hold-your-hand idealistic point of view that somehow magically, I mean, God bless some of you. If you're like me, I've been known to have a glass of wine at night watching some of the nightly news. We all need to self-medicate periodically.
Is Jen having a glass too, or are you downing the whole bottle?
You think he shares?
No. I think he drinks that straight from the bottle with a big old straw.
I had a neighbor who used to do that.
All right, let's get back to my girl Ulysses here.
Shoshana has been on the front lines of this work for decades, and so I got too excited. But let me step back. We have Shoshana Scholar here, Director of Harm Reduction Division at the LA County Department of Health Services.
We have an entire division of LA County Health Services dedicated to this ideology that does not make any sense.
Here's what should frighten you. When I got my master's degree and I showed up for the ceremony, the first thing is that the keynote address, or the speaker who was given all the attention, the entire speech was about rape, which on what's supposed to be a happy day is not necessarily a topic that you want to hear about. But when they started presenting the degrees, and Claremont Graduate University is all graduate students, when they were presenting the degrees, there were maybe, I don't know, I think I was one of two who got a master's degree in political science. There was less than 10 that got a degree in math, less than 10 for English, less than 10 for history, botany, go down the list. And then you get to 3 subjects that made up, and I'm just guesstimating here, 80 to 90% of the degrees that were awarded, master's degrees. And they were in these 3 subjects: education, psychology, and public health.
Yeah.
Well, if you get into public health, you can make the big bucks.
That's exactly what's happening. You have these people that go into these academic institutions, they teach them all of this useless psychobabble, and then they go into these jobs where they're in the Department of Harm Reduction, or whatever the hell they call it, and they kill people because they don't know anything, and they think that they're doing a good job, and they congratulate themselves and reward themselves and pay themselves handsome salaries. It's completely crazy.
We have Shoshana Scholar here, Director of Harm Reduction Division at the LA County Department of Health Services. Thank you so much for joining us, for your partnership, and for always just being a leader for folks that have for so long been left behind and forgotten. Thank you for always bringing them forward. We have Marta Arevalo.
That's right. We are not leaving these people behind. We're just leaving them in the street instead of getting them treatment.
And that's a good thing, to her, according to her.
I had someone who lives in the Macarthur Park call into my 5 o'clock show yesterday on this, and they said that somebody overdosed in their parking lot. The ambulance came. They revived them with the Narcan. They needed an extra dose because it wasn't strong enough. And then when he finally was able to stand on his own 2 feet, they just left him there to get high again.
That's the goal, though. Based on my understanding of what they're doing, they want to be able to revive them when they overdose, but give them the tools to overdose.
We have Marta Arevalo, Executive Director at Carecen. Seeing you 2 times in 1 week for some beautiful events.
I think that woman runs a day laborer center, so that's fun.
What are they doing there?
Everyone who gets invited to this thing about how great Macarthur Park is, it's fascinating because this is the most dangerous park in all of Los Angeles.
See, if I were doing this press conference, I would get more relevant people to join me. I'm standing here next to the coroner. He identifies many of the bodies that we find in the park. Everyone give a warm round of applause for that person. Okay, beside him, we got the person that does the chalk outlines when people get shot after they have disputes over who the drugs actually belong to. So let's go ahead and everyone thank them. They're using their art degree well, as you can see. Oh, yes, we have the people who put up the crime scene tape. Yes, the yellow tape that you see all around the park all the time. The normal person who puts up the crime scene tape is out because they have carpal tunnel from putting that tape up so frequently. So we have the fill-in who's up here joining me. Thank you very much. You do a wonderful job. I love your kids. How's your mother?
Yesterday, to uplift our immigrant communities, and today to uplift the area of Macarthur Park, which often, I don't know if people know, but it is the Ellis Island of the West Coast. This is where people come to. Our immigrant communities are here and find resources.
Wait,
here.
That's where you go to buy forged documents. It's not Ellis Island.
I got someone that called in and said that happens too. If you need a Social Security number, go to Macarthur Park.
Good Lord.
Find resources here and community here, and you've been leading.
This is where we want all the immigrants to go and see how bad it is, and then they'll go back.
If you just got here from Guatemala and you showed up to a park where everyone told you need to go to buy your forged documents, and all you see are drug addicts around you being revived by Narcan and then going right back to the drugs the moment that they could walk again, I would get back on the boat and go back to Guatemala.
And you've been leading a lot of that work to make sure that they don't get left behind. So thank you so much.
Everyone's done such a great job. This is not the most dangerous park in Los Angeles.
And she really seems to believe it. That's what's crazy to me.
She is a full-on ideologue.
And
she's not shy about her opinions, and the scary thing is she got elected with them.
Because we are the defund the police people, right?
Elected right out in a primary, defeating a longtime incumbent with the harm reduction, defund the police, you can't get well in a cell ideology.
You can't get well in a cell.
We got no one to blame but ourselves for this.
And by the way, this shows you how extreme Barbara Ferrer is. Because just regular standard Democrats like Gil Cedillo, they don't sign up for this stuff. She is a special kind of crazy, and Barbara Ferrer is in her corner.
No, thank you.
And I'm going to go because I know it's hot, so I'm going to just keep going, but we'll get through this, okay?
How many service providers are profiting off the human suffering at Macarthur Park?
How many do you want?
We have Mark LaRanger, CEO of Chrysalis. Thank you so much, Mark, for your partnership and for the wonderful teams you have with us today.
Chrysalis is a jobs placement program, and they take the homeless and pay them to pick up their own trash.
Wait a minute. Explain that to me again.
So the homeless drug addicts create tons and tons and tons of human waste and garbage at the park. This organization pays them to clean it up.
That sounds like money well spent.
Social enterprise models are just phenomenal. Alex Sanchez, Executive Director of Homies Unidos, here with us today.
Homies Unidos, you know what that organization is, John?
I don't think I have to ask.
They intervene with homeless gang members.
Okay, I got to diagram this in my head. If you're a homeless gang member, how do you afford the bullets?
You probably have to knock off a liquor store.
And, tattoos are expensive, too.
Alex Sanchez, Executive Director of Homies Unidos, here with us today, who's been a great partner.
All of these organizations are getting funded with your tax dollars, and they all have a vested interest in the meth head staying on meth.
Because if they get off meth, then there's no more money for them.
Around our public safety responses, around building.
Oh, yeah, they also have ambassadors.
Oh, yes, we can't live without them.
Because why would a police officer want to go anywhere near MacArthur Park right now? It's not safe.
The only thing they have in common with actual ambassadors is they never get parking tickets.
More community and investing in some of the folks who have been impacted by the different systems in our communities and making leaders out of them. They're leaders, but you make them realize it and you invest in them and build that confidence. So thank you, Alex, for your decades of work.
I wonder if they have gang member life coaches too.
Okay, so let's just focus on what she said there. The ambassadors, play that one more time.
Around our public safety responses, around building more community and investing in some of the folks who have been impacted by the different systems in our communities and making leaders out of them.
Impacted by the different systems in our community. She's talking about criminals who get picked up by the cops.
Yes.
And she doesn't say they were arrested by the cops, prosecuted by the DA's office, sentenced by the judge, convicted by the jury, put in prison with the guards, under the care of the warden, impacted by the system. And they're leaders, They're leaders. They're not followers. They're leaders.
If you go back to the history of Eunice Hernandez, she is a fascinating case. True story, and I know this because I've listened to a lot of podcasts with this woman. She grew up wanting to be a police officer and then changed her tune when all her friends got arrested for being drug dealers.
So the city council was the place for her.
And she has worked to destroy the system so the drug dealers don't have to go to prison.
Okay, here's what I want to do. And I'm actually very serious with this question. At 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222. Right now, we have a massive drug problem in this state, in this country, really. We know that people are taking drugs. We know that people are not seeking help. certainly not without coercion from the state in many cases. And some of the drugs that are out there are extremely dangerous that include fentanyl. And fentanyl is not just a drug that you take because you want fentanyl. Fentanyl is a drug that is laced in all kinds of illegal drugs. So if there's ever a time when you really don't want people doing drugs, it's when many of the drugs in your supply are laced with fentanyl. Given the fact that we know this, we know how dangerous drugs are, we know how dangerous drugs laced with fentanyl are, the fact that our local elected officials and appointed officials are bending over backwards to make sure that the drug addicts have as much drug paraphernalia as possible and all the Narcan to bring them back so they can go right back to doing the drugs. Here's my question to you. Do you think they're trying to kill them? Do you think that's the goal? Or do you think that they're so ideologically extreme that they just don't care? That their ideology says you can't tell someone their behavior is bad. You can't tell someone that they're sick and they need help because that would be judgmental. So you just have to give them all the paraphernalia they can handle and let them do drugs until they die. Which one is it? It's option A or option B. Either they want them to die or they're so politically extreme they can't tell them that they're sick and they need help. I honestly don't know which one it is. And I'm trying to put myself in a position, if I was in a position of power, where I wanted the people underneath me to die, how I would do it. And the closest thing I can come up with would be if I were the warden of a prison and I were in charge of death row. You have mass murderers, you have terrorists, you have people who did horrific things. If I was in charge of their care and I knew that the system wouldn't allow me to execute them in a timely manner, and I wanted to speed the process along, what would I do? Well, here's what I would do. I would make sure that they had access to all the cigarettes that they wanted. The only rule I would place on them is that none of the cigarettes could be filtered. I would make sure to have all of the junk food they can handle. Just vending machines that didn't require dollars. And they had 24-hour access to these vending machines, and they could eat all the pork rinds, all the Little Debbies, all the Pop-Tarts, everything that they wanted and more. I would prohibit exercise because who needs that? I would make sure that they had access to all of these things in perpetuity. And I would try to put rules on the books that should I get promoted to a different department, should I leave my position, that the next person wouldn't be able to get rid of it, that they would have access to it. If the goal was to kill them. But if I were in charge of the park and I had a bunch of drug addicts and I had the same sort of motivation, I don't think I would do anything different than what they're doing. What they're doing is putting them on the fast track to death, whether they know it or not. So my question to you at 800-222-5222, 1-800-222-5222 is this. Which option is it, A or B? Option A is they're trying to kill them. Option B is they're so politically extreme they don't care if they kill them. Which one is it? 800-222-5222. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, if you want to listen to us later tonight, a second time, that's easy to do.
Go to kabc.com and click on podcasts.
Okay, what are we doing here with the harm reduction at Macarthur Park? We're giving out drug paraphernalia to drug addicts. We're reviving them with Narcan so they can go back to doing the drugs. Are our elected and appointed officials trying to kill them, or are they so politically extreme they don't care if they kill them? What's the answer? 800-222-5222. MacArthur Park is a drug den. Our local appointed and elected officials are giving all the drug addicts drug paraphernalia and Narcan so that when they overdose, we can bring them back to life so they can do more drugs. Do you think, there's one of two options the way I see it, they're either trying to kill them or they're so politically extreme they don't care if they kill them? Which one is it? 800-222-5222. Let's begin with Patrick in La Puente. Patrick, hello.
Hi, John. Good afternoon. How you doing?
Good.
I think it's the, what do they call it, trend, where everything combines the intersectionality of the homeless industrial complex. If the homeless go away, then all these NGOs and nonprofits won't get their funding. You know, if they don't keep them on drugs and keep them on the streets, what's going to happen? As far as death goes, well, that's why we have those $400,000 Narcan guys. They'll take care of that, and that should smooth over their conscience if they had any. The whole thing's ridiculous, and again, it goes to the city council members who are, avowed Marxists, and it's just one way to tear down the system so that they can be in charge. It's horrible. It's just really horrible.
Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Robert in San Pedro. Robert, welcome.
Hey, how you doing today?
Good.
All right. It's option one, option A. They're trying to kill these people. They're trying to kill them. They want them out of the way. Thus people that can fight later on.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. Let's go to Tony in Ontario. Tony, hello.
Hey, how you doing, John?
Good.
I just want to say it's a combination of both. I don't know. I think they're trying to kill them, but I've worked in the elevator trade for 30 years, and I've seen this stuff. And I've worked in L.A., downtown Skid Row area, and I've seen it. It's all about money. It's always about money. So that's what I want to say, and they don't help anyone. That's all.
Thank you for the call, sir. Randy, if you put a gun to my head and you say, okay, you have to come up with the answer, here's what my answer would be. I think that they're so politically extreme, they don't want to put anyone in jail for any reason. And if you say, okay, what you have is a sickness, what you have is an addiction, and you need to go seek treatment, and if you don't go seek treatment, you need to go to prison because you can't do drugs in public, you can't steal to finance your habit, you can't do any of those things. So it's treatment or jail. There is nothing you can do that can get these people to say that. Well, if you can't force someone into treatment or put them in jail if they break the law, then you just have to facilitate their bad behavior. And facilitating their bad behavior, if that's a good thing, then if you kill them, that's not on you because you're not being judgmental. You're doing the good thing. You're doing the right thing. So if they die, that's just the cost of doing business.
It is a twisted, insane ideology, but they truly believe that it is better to keep someone barely alive, still doing drugs for one extra day, than possibly trying to get them off the drugs, which could save their life. And for all the people that think, oh, it's so cruel, we don't want to criminalize this public health issue, we could open up the phones any day and get a full bank of people that prison or jail was how someone's life got back together and they got off the cocaine or what have you.
Prison or jail sounds awful because that's where we put murderers, that's where we put rapists, that's where we put really bad people. But what we're trying to do is get their attention. And you can't get someone's attention unless there are consequences. And you say, well, you can't criminalize a sickness. Well, okay. Then we can put them in jail for doing it in public. We can put them in jail for stealing to finance their habit. We can put them in jail for any number of things that don't involve directly the drugs. But then they turn around and say, well, those are crimes associated with poverty, and they're poor. You can't criminalize someone for being poor. Well, guess what? We're not. We're criminalizing them for their behavior. We are judging them by their actions. And fundamentally, they don't believe in that. Let's go to Steve in Irvine. Steve, hello.
Hey, John. Hey, Randy. Glad to have you guys back. Yeah, I think the people like Ulysses Hernandez I think they're parasites. I think they are, like you said, they would rather keep a wounded person wounded because then you get to tend to them and you've created a grift that goes on forever. It's a self-licking ice cream cone. And I don't think they want them to die. Matter of fact, I think they want more of them because that's just a bigger pie for them bigger trough for them to sup to.
Sure. What they don't want is they don't want the problem being solved, because the moment the problem is solved, then they go away. And then they have to go get real jobs. And none of them want to do that because none of them are equipped to deal with that.
And there goes all the gravy.
Yes. And you see that with other organizations. Take the gay rights movement. The big deal was we need gay marriage. Gay marriage is the fight. Gay marriage is how we raise our money. Gay marriage is the rallying cry. Well, the courts weighed in. Gay marriage is the law of the land. You had a president that supported gay marriage. Now you have a president from the opposite political party that supports gay marriage. That battle is over. That's been fought. That's been won. So what do? Do they go away? No,
Trans.
Of course they don't go away. It's all trans stuff now. So it's trans.
You got to find something else.
Yeah, because that's what rings the cash register. And these organizations...
If you want more of something, John, you know this, pay for it.
100%. Thank you for the call, sir. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, you're monitoring the mailbag.
Penny writes in at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. Jail saved my niece's life. It got her off of meth. She's an awesome person. She has a good job and is married now. She's raised a beautiful daughter, helps her mom, my sister, all the time.
Yeah, there's no way to improve their lives unless you get them off the drugs. And not all of them are going to be able to do that. If you talk to people who run these rehab programs, the failure rate is extremely high. But allowing them to do drugs and kill themselves is not an acceptable option. It's the one we've chosen, but it's not acceptable. Let's go back to the phones and welcome John in Los Angeles. John, hello.
Hey, how are you guys?
Good.
Boy, that Ulysses Hernandez has a very feminine voice, huh? I'm sure she's a very petite, lovely young lady.
We're not taking the bait. Go ahead, sir.
So I recently watched the documentary on this dude named Khalil Rafati, and he owns this place called Sun Life Organics in Malibu now. He's a former addict, and this was his opinion. He was asked about this. If they were handing out needles while he was doing drugs in Skid Row, he says he would not own his Malibu juice bar right now.
I believe it, because I'm sure at some point someone told him to get help. And that probably is what helped him.
Thanks for the call, John.
All right, we appreciate it.
You're not going to get us.
Look at our self-restraint.
Well,
we've come such a long way.
We like these jobs, and we also don't like getting in trouble.
Let's go to Jimmy in Whittier. Jimmy, hello.
John, how you doing?
Good.
Years ago, well, number one, Macarthur Park's been an issue for 50 years. And years ago, I went to a community meeting with the captain of Rampart Division, and people were complaining about the issues they were having 50 years ago to today. And he said one of the reasons they weren't getting rid of the people is because they considered Macarthur Park a prison without walls. They knew where all the criminals were at, the homeless, the drug addicts. And he said, if we try to push these people out, he asked the community, well, where are they going to go? They're going to go into your neighborhood and basically start camping where you live. I'll start one more thing. The more money they throw into Macarthur Park, the worse it gets, because you're going to go where the money's at. And these are the leeches that are going to be there. It's almost like one time I had a cat issue, kittens, and I called the Humane Society. How do I get rid of the kittens? And they goes, well, the only way you can get rid of them, you got to quit feeding them, and then they go away. And same thing with rats. If you leave peanut butter and whatever rats are attracted to, they're going to come and eat it. If you shut that food source, they're going to leave. Now, where do they go? Well, I don't know. But the other thing is I'm going to be called a racist, and that's okay because I'm a Hispanic person. I worked in the Rampart area. And Macarthur Park, when my dad took me there when I was a young boy back in the 60s and 50s, it was a beautiful place. And the reason I'm going to get feedback from being called a racist is because the issues actually started when the Central Americans invaded Macarthur Park, especially MS-16 or whatever the gang is called, MS-13. That's really when the issue started. So, you know, you keep on giving money to Macarthur Park, it gets worse. The more money they get, the more people are going to come in. So that's my take, John.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir. A prison without walls. That's a way of describing it.
You know, as soon as he said, I'm going to get called racist for this, my finger was so quickly on the dump button. But then he didn't go too far. So
No,
it was
he didn't.
okay.
Let's go to Jeff at Encino. Jeff, hello.
John, your audience has too much common sense, but just enough of a sense of humor to make us really dangerous. I was actually holding to tell you this before you opened up the phone because, you know, there's a particular group that loves to throw down, and that's the neighbor kids, the down-ass kids. So
the neighborhood kids, the down-ass kids don't like it.
Exactly. So to continue with this discussion, you're not wrong. Those are our leaders would be the perfect commies in China and Russia because they don't mind if people die. As what's her name said herself, they disappear them. Well, they didn't really do what they do in China and Russia, but they do disappear them in China and Russia, and they get disappeared forever.
All right. Thank you for the call, sir.